US President Donald Trump shook the world agenda with his decision to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. While everyone thought Trump was targeting North America, the real surprise turned out to be China. The Trump administration announced that it would impose an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods as of February 1, 2025, and the president signed the decision into law. Thus, a new page was opened in the US-China trade war. Why has Trump gotten so tough on China again? How did China respond to the US tariffs? How will this tension between the world's two largest economies play out? We will now analyze China's response to Trump and all the questions in depth. Before we begin, you can support us by subscribing to our channel. February 1, 2025 will be considered a turning point in the world economy. Trump's simultaneous targeting of China, the European Union, Canada, and Mexico with tariffs changed the economic balance in an instant. But it seems that China is not so easy to digest. China is particularly strong in many areas, from electric vehicles to rare heritage and raw materials. Now, China is responding very harshly to Trump's tariffs. On the Chinese side, there are already statements of reaction to Trump's decision. In the past, Beijing has imposed tariffs on agricultural and high-tech products from the US. The view is that a similar course will be followed now. Moreover, China had signaled that it might retaliate against the US technology sector by imposing export restrictions on strategic minerals such as gallium and germanium, especially electric vehicles and batteries. With its latest move, China turned the world agenda upside down and increased its tariffs against the US to 75%. The two giant economies, which have been making moves against each other in trade wars for a long time, have now entered a brand new phase. This phase is leading everyone to ask, are these two countries heading for an irreversible trade rupture? At the center of these tariffs are key industrial products such as electric vehicles and their batteries, the automotive sector, semiconductor supply, high-tech materials. We are in a storm that will affect an entire market. On the US side, we see how Donald Trump has been playing the tariff card since the moment he took office.
If we can't make a deal with China, then the tariffs will be very, very substantial.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning.
His new round of high tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China had already caused a stir. After these tariffs, China did not sit idle either. At first, the Beijing administration was patient and said, wait a minute. But now it seems to have lost its grip. Because a tariff increase of 75% is very rare in the history of world trade. Generally in the history of trade, such high tariffs cause major economic earthquakes. This is a clear sign that the economic war could escalate. With China's retaliation, Washington has found itself in a major shakeup and is hastily preparing new strategies. So why are electric vehicles at the center of this crisis? In recent years, the US has seen electric cars as the industry of the future and started to offer serious support to brands like Tesla in the domestic market, while at the same time imposing restrictions to weaken competition from China. China is already the world's leading producer of electric vehicle batteries. On the one hand, it has a large share of the lithium-ion battery market, while on the other hand, it is creating a huge production capacity in its domestic market with brands such as BYD and NIO. Now, China's response to US tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, batteries, and critical minerals has been tailored to put American automakers in a difficult position. This shows that Beijing's retaliation is deliberately targeting the lifeblood of the US. And it's not just about electric vehicles. China has also announced the potential for additional tariffs on strategic products such as raw materials, semiconductor components, and rare earth elements. These elements play a critical role in the production of modern technological devices. They are used in countless industries, from smartphones to wind turbines. Therefore, China has the ability to say, I have a monopoly in the world with my production capacity. If you impose tariffs of this % on me, I will leave your technology giants breathless. With this latest move, it is clearly sending this message. Such a drastic step is nothing but saying, don't underestimate me. In the US, this unexpected blow has raised concerns about whether inflation will increase further. This is because many consumer goods, even semi-finished products made in China, are vital on American shelves or in American factories. As the new tariffs increase the cost of imported parts, the cost of production rises. This could be reflected in consumer prices, especially in the electric car market. Battery costs, which are already much discussed, may take flight with the new tariffs. American automotive brands are worried. We were going to accelerate the green transformation, but now we will go backwards because of production costs. Major companies from Tesla to Ford use batteries partly from China or depend on materials from China. It's unclear how their supply will shape up now. Perhaps they will try to shift more parts or materials production to places like India or Vietnam. But transforming supply chains so quickly is not easy. Electric vehicles seem to be the main symbol of this struggle, as they represent both advanced technology and environmental transformation. China, which for a long time produced these vehicles at home and grew in its own market, has now opened the door to exports and become a global leader. The US says, the fate of such a strategic sector cannot be in China's hands, and raises the customs wall. China says, if you attack my companies, my batteries, or even my rare elements, I will impose a 75% tariff on your goods. At this point, the electric vehicle battery supply chain is perhaps one of the most critical bullets in this trade war. What could be the consequences? An increase in electric vehicle prices in the US, supply shortages, perhaps manufacturers trying to source batteries from different sources. All of these are possible. On the Chinese side, there will be difficulties such as reduced export revenues and a decline in their share of the American market. Moreover, with both sides saying, I will be the winner, we may be faced with a scenario where no one actually wins. In trade wars, prices usually rise, consumption falls, economic growth slows, and people suffer. This move could also affect the wider geopolitical picture. Uncertainty in the global economy is already high due to tensions between Russia and Ukraine, Europe's energy crisis, and OPEC decisions. If the US-China megatrade war erupts now, the danger of a worldwide recession will increase. It remains to be seen how effective the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank's call to please reduce trade barriers will be. Politics is also involved. I promised my voters that I would protect domestic producers. This is the easiest way, Trump says. Chinese leader Xi Jinping insists, we will not accept this, we will protect our independence. So is this 10% tariff permanent, or will it go higher? Some speculate that the tariffs could go as high as 20% universally, or even 60% for China. For now, we have heard 10% as of February 1, but the future is uncertain. It is possible that Trump will again loudly announce that more increases may be coming. International economic experts say this would have a negative impact on the US economy in the long run, but Trump and his team believe that the US will win in the long run, even if there are unpleasant consequences in the short run. It is not clear whether there is an intermediate compromise in this dispute. The most talked about figure at the moment is 75% retaliation, but it is not clear which items this would cover and when it would be applied. Some argue that it would only apply to certain technology products, perhaps electric vehicles and batteries, while other goods would be subject to a lower tax. Other observers suggest that Beijing plans to tax almost everything at this rate. Nothing is finalized yet. Perhaps it will be finalized within weeks, but ultimately, a big trade showdown is on the way. At the moment, no one seems to be showing that flexibility yet. Yet trade wars usually start with threats and retaliation, followed by a return to the table and partial agreements. In 2019, for example, there was something called the Phase 1 agreement. Now they may be looking for a new Phase 1, but this time both sides are more ambitious. The US is trying to exclude China by developing close supply and friendly supply policies. China, on the other hand, is growing steadily, saying, We will be independent in technology. Autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, semiconductor production, all are stages in this struggle. Therefore, there are experts who say, it may be more difficult to reach an agreement this time. As a result, China's 75% tariff retaliation against the US has further inflamed an already boiling trade cauldron. From the electric vehicle sector to technology and agriculture, many areas will be affected. Higher inflation, higher production costs, and slower global growth are potential outcomes. Of course, both leaders seem intent on not backing down. We will see how the tensions play out internationally. We may hear news of backdoor talks in the near future, but for now, the outlook is grim. Hopefully, the conflict will not escalate too much and dialogue will prevail. Otherwise, the two biggest engines of world trade could hurt each other and shake everyone. Thank you for following us.